Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AFL SuperCoach official live show. We had a couple of weeks off. Thank you to Dossie for carrying things in our absence. But myself, Paton and Matt Forrest are back for the last 2 rounds of the SuperCoach home and away season. Of course, the chase for the 50K and all our league grand finals and I suppose prelim final this week. So a huge couple of weeks. And then we do get a SuperCoach finals game after that. So SuperCoach doesn't stop, but we're focusing on the prelim weekend, obviously, this week in our leagues. And I know, Matt, you've sort of played it a little bit conservative over the year with maybe a little bit more of an eye to leagues and coming home pretty hard from what I've seen from your scores over the last couple of weeks. How are you placed in terms of prelims this weekend?
Yeah, you're watching closely. I've done pretty well. I think I'm in 7 or 8 prelims, which has been nice. But yeah, overall rank has climbed about 2,000-3,000 spots every week for the last month or so. So I'm now just hovering just outside the top 5,000. Last week I only went up a couple of hundred spots, which was a little bit disappointed in my 2,600, which I don't think I would have ever said. But we're hopefully continuing the climb. However, I'm now officially out of trades and I've got to deal with Brody Grundy. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to do there, but we'll let's hope that maybe we have 22 good scores and I can just deal with the donut. That's the hope at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, flex this year's made such a huge difference. I remember last year, the last 6 or so weeks, I had no trades, and every time there was, a player had a week off or something, you're just copying donuts left, right, and centre. But this year, have been able to cover them, and I've been able to, even though I've had Adam Chera out for the last couple of weeks, I've just played Hugh Boxall off the bench, and he scored okay. So I've just hung on to that trade. So I still have that one trade left. But now we hear Chera's gone for the year, and I've got Grundy as well. So I do have a bit of a decision to make which way I go with that. But we'll maybe get into that with for people out there who do have trades left. And let's just have a look at the rest of the teams, and hopefully there's not too many other landmines that we have to deal with as well. But of course, no Thursday night footy, I should say, in the men's anyway. We've got the opening games in the AFLW coming up tonight, but that gives us a little bit of extra time in SuperCoach. So going into the big Friday night blockbuster, Essendon and the Saints. Just looking at the teams, we did hear from the Saints that Alex Dodson's going to make his debut. So my number one trade option for Grundy was Rowan Marshall coming up against Todd Goldstein. And then I think he's got the Giants, Kieran Briggs in the last round, which is a nice matchup. Does Dodson coming in change anything there? I mean, he is a ruckman, draftee playing his first game. He replaces Max Heath, who was a young ruckman who was basically playing full forward anyway. So hopefully Dodson just goes down there. But they get Lance Collard and Toby Travalia in as well. And Hunter Clark's injured. He's sort of managed to not be injured for most of this year, which is unusual for him. But he's out along with Heath, as I mentioned. And Liam Henry's been omitted again. And for the Bombers, Zach Merritt, there's another one that's going to hurt a few coaches out there. We knew about that with his broken hand. He's out. Dylan Shield is suspended, of course, for injuring his own teammate. And Archer May is out again, and in comes. So Kyle Langford's back, so that's a good one for the Bombers. Sardell Hawley, if anyone has him still in Supercoach, gets another go. And there's a few, I think, of these this week where coaches are just going to start blooding kids and ruining their rookie price for next year. Reece Unwin for the Bombers. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, he's you know what? I like him. He's I feel like the Essendon fans have now, cottoned onto the realization that the Bombers are just blooding debutants for the sake of the record now. They're just bumping up that number, and then I wouldn't be surprised if Jerine gets a debut next week just to round out the season and make sure there is none left that haven't played an AFL game by the end of the year. So, but yeah, he's played a little bit small forward, a little bit small defender. So it'll be interesting to see where they play him. He might be sub. He's not a bad candidate for the sub best this week, but just another debutant for the Bombers. Not that we really need them at this point of the year, but it'll be fun to watch and I guess see if anyone can. Without anyone really talking about it, St Kilda's up to 10 debutants this year.
Yeah, wow, okay.
And it's crazy that all the focus is on the Bombers with 15, I think it is now. But yeah, there are clubs that are starting to get up there.
Do you know much about Dodson? I know he's very tall. I think he's about 203 centimeters, and I know he had a very big game in the VFL last week.
Yeah, he was the number one ruck last year in the crop. Wasn't really a deep draft crop for rucks, but he somehow he slid down to picking the 50s. St Kilda snatched him up after there was talk of Geelong wanting him towards the end of the first round. Big body. I don't think he plays much forward, which probably hurts the Rowan Marshall chatter. But he had I think it was 35 touches and 41 hitouts from memory. He was on 20-20 at halftime and just absolutely stockpiling it. So he's definitely a really, despite being a big, almost, he looks like he'd lumber around the ground, but he moves quite well, uses it pretty well by foot, has got that coveted basketball background. He played Australia under 18s before making the commitment to footy. So yeah, he's a great talent. But obviously he's only 19 years old, so I don't think they'd be exposing him full time to the ruck duties. That's why he's probably going to be playing in that sort of Max Heath role that he's overtaking.
Yeah, surely Ross doesn't just try something in the second last round in a game that doesn't really mean anything and put.
He might want a top 4 pick. He might be doing it just to get that top 4 pick, because whoever loses this game is locked into it.
They need to push up Marshall's trade value too, don't they? There's a bit going on down there. Rolling into they've got two. We got 2 Friday night games, of course. Freo and Brisbane. No huge changes there that are going to affect us too much in Supercoach. I don't think. Corey Wagner is in and Dudley omitted for the Dockers. And there's a debutant at Brisbane as well, Luke Beacon. Can't tell you much about him, but he's in along with Sam Day, Brandon Starcevich, and Ryan Lester. Tom Doty is out injured again. I missed that after coming back after his long layoff. Henry Smith out, Devon Robertson dropped, and Will McLaughlin dropped. Yeah,
I can tell you plenty about Luke Beacon, having just traded for him in a keeper league that we're both in. He's a rebounding half-backer, mid-season draftee last year. Uses it primarily by foot. He's that classic sort of half-back, take distance and take ground sort of user, but he's relatively clean. Has been very consistent this year, has been in the emergencies, a few times throughout the course of the season, but finally gets his chance. And he's another one for the Lions, but it'll be interesting to see where he sort of slots in the last couple of weeks. If this is just he's out of contract, let's give him a couple of weeks in the AFL, see if he's worth another deal, or if it's there might actually be a void that he can fill going into finals. So could be a really interesting one to see how he plays over the next 2 weeks if he gets a second game.
Yeah, remember they brought Darcy Wilmot in right at the tail end 2 or 3 years ago in the finals, and he was a real find. So turned out to be a good pick for us in Supercoach too. So the Saturday we've got a 12:35 game. Gold Coast playing the Giants. Now this is huge. I know Dossie was going to be watching and he's hanging out for this one. Sam Flanders is in after missing a couple of weeks. Alex Sexton back, another Supercoach favourite. Bailey Humphrey and Malcolm Rosas both out injured. And over at the Giants, just a one change. Stringer is out and Jacob Ware comes in. But again, nothing huge there, unless you're one of the few people, which is Dossie. And I think there's someone in the top 10 overall who has Sam Flanders as well. So that's a bit of a bonus for them.
Huge. Yeah, the only other sort of Supercoach interest, I guess, is Adam Kingsley in his press conference today flagged that Toby Bedford might be tagging. He hasn't tagged for the last month or so, but obviously a very big midfield battle there for the Giants and the Suns. The Suns obviously got Matt Rowell, who's dominating, and Noah Anderson, who has had a spectacular season. So hopefully he goes to Rowell, because I have Anderson, and Anderson was easily shut down.
Surely he's more of an Anderson type.
Well, he's more of an Anderson type, but Anderson scored 55 last week after getting tagged. So he might have seen that game and is using it for inspiration, but hopefully not. Hopefully he can avoid it and he goes off to someone else.
Speaking of tags, we've got a 1:20 Saturday game, Carlton and Port. The one change at the Blue, Sam Walsh is back after a long time out, and Will White has been dropped. And over at Port, Jack Lacoche is injured again, and Lockie Jones comes back in. And there's probably a tag warning here too for Zach Butters or maybe Connor Rosie, but with Cooper Lord has shut down a couple of pretty big names in the last couple of weeks. Well, actually getting a fair bit of the footy himself. But I think I'd be steering clear of Butters, certainly when it comes to picking a captain this week.
Yeah, it'd be fraught with danger. I feel like if he doesn't get attention, it's a sort of game he'd absolutely dominate. fast track against a slow midfield. But obviously there is that danger that he gets lined up against, and even if it is a George Hewitt at the contest, and I know he hasn't really done that this season because they've let him go and he's found a lot more of his own ball, but he's built in the same mold as Josh Dunkley, who can provide that defensive pressure and keep players, keep them to the side during the contest, but then also find their own ball. So it'd be interesting to see the setup, and if they do send a designated tagger to Butters or even to Rosie. But yeah, I guess it's just a case of if the tag's not there, then I'd love him as a captain option in this game. But yeah, a big risk.
Yeah, we'll get into captains after going through the games, and there are some good options this week, even with Brodie Grundy not playing. Now 4:15 on Saturday afternoon. They're just coming thick and fast. Hawthorn, Melbourne, traditional rivals, I guess. No changes at the Hawks. They're flying. And for the D's, Stephen May's back. Harry Sharp comes back in. Jed Adams omitted after just one game, I think. And Caleb Windsor is injured. But again, no massive Supercoach news there.
No, none at all. Jed Adams stiff to not get a second game, but Stephen May's a much better footballer at this stage, so it's fair enough.
Yeah, fair. Now, there are quite a few changes in this Saturday night game, Adelaide-Collingwood, so this is going to be a cracker over there in South Australia for the Crows. Taylor Walker's back after being managed last week. Brodie Smith, Harry Schoenberg, I don't know if we've seen him barely all year, and Lockie Murphy comes in. Rory Laird is suspended, of course. Chris Burgess is back out. He was sort of just covering for Tex last week. Chase Jones has been dropped, and Luke Pedler is injured again. And the Pies have also made a few changes. Will Parker, Beau McCreary, and Ed Allen come in. Tom Mitchell's been dropped. Jeremy Howe, of course, injured, and Will Hoskin-Elliott has also been dropped. But plenty on the line in this one. I don't know if there'll be a heap of tagging going on, but who do you like? It's on the Crows' home deck, and you'd have to probably have them favourites, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, Collingwood's beaten. I don't know what the exact number is, and I wish I did. I pulled it up, but it's a ridiculous amount of games against the Crows at Adelaide Oval. They seem to have the wood open there, but I'm taking the Crows. The Pies are in pretty poor form at the moment. The Crows are flying. I know that sort of stuff. Whenever you talk about this team's in great form and the other team's in bad form, that's always a week where it swaps. So I am very mindful of that. The Pies' quality, you can't rule them out. I think that it's a real dip at the moment, but they're still, got some great players. The fact they're able to drop players like Tom Mitchell and Will Hoskin-Elliott and still feel like they can, be at that level just shows you the sort of depth they've got. But Crows I think is a real challenge, especially at home.
Yeah, mate. Looking forward to that one. And then we go into the Sunday game. So, of course, talking about extended squads here. North versus Richmond is the early game down in Hobart for the Kangaroos. Paul Curtis is back. Jai Simpkins back from injury. Taylor Goad has been named. If he does make the final squad, that would be another debutant. I think he's a ruckman, I think, isn't he? Will Phillips and Matt Whitlock come in. So is Whitlock's the guy that they took in the draft? That draft pick that they famously swapped with Richmond. So that's interesting that they've named him against Richmond. And Bryn Teakle has been dropped, and Riley Hardiman is injured. And over at the Tigers, no outs at this stage. Josh Gibkiss has been named for his first game since round 1 last year, I believe that would be, after he's just had a horrendous run with injuries. But he's been plugging away at the VFL. I don't think he's been putting up huge kind of numbers, but he's probably played 4 or 5 games now at the level, and I think they just want to give him a crack at AFL level before the end of the year. So everything crossed for Josh. I mean, he could potentially be another rookie price defender for us in Supercoach for about the 3rd time if he can. Everything goes right for him between now and then. But obviously big talent. He's had no luck whatsoever in his career so far. Luke Traynor also potentially coming back in, and Jacob Kajitsky, who had a massive game in the VFL. He kicked 4 goals and then went into the ruck and had about 30 hit-outs and about 25 disposals or something. He's probably just one of the best games of his career at any level. So good luck to Jacob if he can get back in the team. But a couple of interesting names, and it should be I guess that draft pick is kind of in play. I'm not sure. I have to check the ladder if things can really change too much this weekend. But a bit of interest in that one between these two teams.
Yeah, it'd be. I think with Bryn Teakle being omitted, it sort of paves the way for Matt Whitlock to come into the side. I think that'd be the irony of it if he tears it up and just proves the fact that I know that trade. Look, if Whitlock was available in this year's draft, he'd be going, top 3 or 4 anyway. The 2 drafts are completely different, and this year's draft is a lot weaker than last year's draft. And pick 27 is probably, Whitlock is probably worth a pick 5 or so in this year's draft. So, and they get the extra year of development. So that's not the whole point. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's at play, whether they do bring him in for, they wouldn't bring him in just for the fun of it, but it certainly would add to the spectacle and the theatre of the commentary. At least I know that if BT's on the call, he'd love it. He'd be all over it. And then I don't think Taylor Goad gets a game. He's another ruck. But yeah, just to bring him into the squad, it's probably a good experience if he's a travelling emergency as well. And yeah, gets a bit of a run around, hopefully at some stage. But I don't think they'd play 2 rucks, especially down in Tassie.
Yeah, I mean, without wanting to get too much into, cutting the lunch of our draft experts, I think last year too, it was a really strong draft for those key position types. This year, I think is maybe more midfielders, which is obviously, I think Richmond probably needs more of those, and North had plenty of sort of high pick mids in their side already, and maybe they thought, we need to grab one of those talls when we get the chance. So, but yeah, that'll be one that we'll be watching for quite a few years, I expect. The next Sunday game is the Sydney Geelong game, which should be pretty good. Contest up there with Sydney haven't dropped off, even though they been knocked out of the finals. So they'll provide a pretty good contest, I would think. And obviously Grundy out with in the concussion protocols. If anybody missed that, just copped a hit. I just remember looking across at the TV. There's about 2 minutes left in the game. It's like, there's a Sydney player lying on the ground. That looks a lot like Brodie Grundy. And yeah, he didn't move for a little while, and then he got up and sort of just gingerly walked off. And then they sort of seemed to say it's nothing too serious, but then maybe had a headache the next day and not taking any chances. So yeah, it's an interesting one in SuperCoach where I think they play West Coast in the last round, and it would be just past the concussion protocols. But I mean, would you risk him if he's not 100%? Nothing really. They're not playing for anything. If he does come back, he could score absolutely massive. Yeah, it's a tricky one. But anyway, a few changes there. So he's out. Justin McInerney is also injured. They've brought in Will Hayward. Peter Laddams comes in to cover for Brodie. William Green, another debutant. Matt Roberts is back, SuperCoach favourite, and Corey Warner. And the Cats just have 3 ins at this stage: Dangerfield, Jed Buse, and Jack Martin.
Yeah, so Will Green could be on debut watch to replace Grundy. He's another tall drafted a couple of years ago, and he's been flying in the VFL. He's probably one of the bigger bodies in there, despite only being, I think he's about 20 at the moment. But yeah, he might get the call up. Could easily just go to Peter Laddams and Hayden McLean, I think, is inside as well to duke it out there. But this is why a lot of people brought in Brodie Grundy, was to get him against the Cats who don't have any rucks, and then play him against West Coast who don't have any rucks. And we already cashed in on his run of 200s and 150s in the last few weeks, and it was a dream run, and now it's broken. So very unfortunate.
Can't have nice things. Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is, when he was out, I sort of thought, oh, this could be a chance for who's playing Sydney this week. They're going to be up against a real backup ruck, and it's Geelong. So, laid up on the Reece Stanley or a Mark Blitzer.
Toby Conway, who's out with a foot injury again.
Yeah, should be a good game up there. And finishing off the round, Western Bulldogs and West Coast at Marvel. A few changes potentially. The Dogs have lost Latham Vandermeer, and Caleb Poulter has been dropped. A bit rough. He had a good game. Might have been a couple of weeks ago now. And Sam Davidson potentially back in. Jordan Croft, I think, if they confirmed that he will debut.
That's a debut. Yep.
The son, yeah. Cooper Hines, Arthur Jones, haven't seen him for a while, and Lachlan Smith, another potential debutant. And a bunch of changes over at the Eagles, and there's some new names here too. Or at least one, Jacob Newton, is in for his debut. I think mid-season draftee.
Debutant for the season. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. So Duggan is out suspended. Tom Gross has been dropped. That's a huge blow for those of us in SuperCoach who watched him score. I think it was about 9 points last week. I didn't check his price, but his break-even was about 50, and he scored 9. So hasn't been a great rookie pick for us. And Archer Reed is injured as well. So their ins are Noah Long, Jaden Hunt, Bailey J. Williams, Jack Williams, Malachi Champion, and Jacob Newton. So, yeah, plenty going on there. But, I don't know anything about Lachlan Smith, but Jordan Croft, sort of key forward type, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, so Crofty is a 201 centimetre father-son. He was initially drafted as a key forward, has been thrown into the defence and to start his VFL career, but he's been sort of plying his trade and learning the wing role. So in a very
Bevo move. Father-son at the Dogs, do they?
Yeah, so I think we'll see Crofty on a wing, which is going to be interesting at his height. But yeah, very runs 400s for fun, according to the dogs. He loves to gallop, I guess, and has a good boot on him. So he uses the ball pretty well for a tall. The fact that they've found another 200 centimeter father son is a bit ridiculous now. They've got another one coming in the draft in Sam Darcy's brother. So they're just going to have it's going to be a team full of 200 centimeter players. Marcus Bontempelli is going to be the shortest one on the list in 3 years' time. But yeah, I don't think Lachlan Smith will debut. He's another tall young ruck. I'd be very surprised if he got a gig. But yeah, Jacob Newton has been confirmed as the 9th debutant for the Eagles as well. He'll come in, sort of played as a small forward. He's the opposite end of Crofty. He's about 175 centimetres. So small pressure forward, loves to tackle, but also can run through the midfield. So not exactly sure the exact role that the Eagles will use him with, but yeah, he loves that pressure side of it. Has a decent set of hands on him for a small guy. He's got a good mark on him. So yeah, hopefully he gets a decent run and isn't the sub. But he's been locked in as well. So a fair few debutants. A couple of weeks left in the season, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes. No. Exactly.
Great for them. I'm sure they love it. But we're looking at 2026.
Yeah. No. That's very much with a SuperCoach lens. But yeah, that's the teams. There's not. I don't think too many shocks there that are going to hurt too many people, apart from the ones we already knew about, obviously, with Grundy, Zach Merritt, maybe a Laird if you've got him. Tom Gross, obviously, is a big blow. But, yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if you can we can get into a couple of questions and some captains in a second, but my dilemma is, that one trade, I sort of think, no point holding onto it now. I may as well use it. Do I just swap Grundy for another ruckman, which I was definitely thinking Marshall coming up against Essendon, Dodson in the team, slight question mark, but I think I still like him. Or the other way to do it would be to, sit Grundy on the bench for a week or just leave him there, play with 22, which you can get away with if nothing else happens, touch wood, and bring in a midfielder for Chera. The problem is Chera's not really worth much, so you can't get a lot. Thinking maybe LDU up against the Tigers, he always scores pretty well. But I think probably the ruck's the way to go. You may as well spend that 700 and something thousand that Grundy has sitting on him.
Yeah, I've got a question for you as the SuperCoach guru, and I'm hoping listeners that this is one part of the questions that we answer. With a player on flex, so if you had Grundy on your flex position, would he be covered by a bench option in a different role, whether it's forward, midfield, or defence, or is it just going to be the ruck?
There's no emergency bench cover for flex at all. No, that's it. That was a clever way of trying to solve that dilemma. But I mean, if I could get Grundy into flex, that would be amazing, because then you could trade that, use the 700 grand to get anybody.
Get anyone. Yeah.
You'd need another ruckman in flex to be able to do that. So
that's why you got Luke Jackson in your forward line, mate. That's how you
do
it.
Yeah, that's right. So people who are in that position, you could do that, swing it around, and then you've got the absolute pick of the board. I think if I could pick anybody, I'd be tempted. The one who's just killed me all year not having him is Jordan Dawson.
Yeah, he's been great, hasn't he?
I think 5-round average of 130, and he's got Collingwood, which obviously is going to be not the easiest game, but he always scores well against them. Scored a couple 150s against them in the last couple of years. So, yeah, I love him. But the other thing, of course, we do offer on this show is our best bets of the week, powered by Better. I know Dossie had about a 9-leg multi that fell apart pretty early in the piece, I think, last weekend. I think the last time I did one of these was about a month ago, and I just played it very safe and got about a $2.50 return on Tim English getting 20 disposals or something. So, we'll pocket that, but we've got to go for something a little bit better this week. But what have you got for us?
Well, mine is very dependent on whether this player is a sub or not. But Luke Bruce announced his retirement today.
Ooh, yeah.
And so I'm hoping, because once a player is the substitute, the bet is void and doesn't count. But he's paying $6 to kick 2 goals. So that's my bet. So I feel like that's pretty good value. So hopefully he plays a full game.
Yeah,
and he just
like
snags
that. Goes the D's. I'm looking at Sunday's Richmond North Melbourne game, particularly Cam Zurhaar, who has a pretty crazy record against Richmond. He's past 4 games against them. He's kicked 4 straight, 1 straight, 6 goals, 1 and 4 straights, for a total of 15 goals, 1 in his last 4 games against Richmond. So you can get, if you want to go for it, you get $6 on him to kick 4 or more, but $2.80 to kick 3 plus, I think, is pretty. That's not too bad. And then you can actually load up a bit with, I reckon, Colby McKercher is an absolute Monty to have a heap of the ball. Richmond gives up a heap of touches to halfbacks, and he's been in really good form. So if you chuck him in at 35 plus disposals, and LDU always does tear Richmond up, which is one reason I'm potentially considering him as a trade in Supercoach. 25 plus for him. So add all that together and you get $9, which would be pretty good if it pays off down in Hobart. I think the Kaggers probably should go right, even if they don't win the game. Those guys should score pretty well. So that's my suggestion for the week. But of course, we have to say, what is gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen. That's 1-800-858-858, or visit the website gamblinghelponline.org.au. So that leaves us with captains, and there's a couple of comments here. Daniel here, what's he saying? He's ranked in the top 1,000 with 2 trades left. Who would you replace Merritt with? So Merritt's
why are you coming to
not
us?
worth heaps, but you got 2 trades, you can do all kinds of things. Geez, that's a bit of a question without notice. Yeah, 510 or something like that. Yeah,
it's really not that much money, is it?
No, unfortunately. His form lately hasn't been amazing. Obviously, Essendon struggling a bit. 504 he is. So yeah, the guys who are in form, you're not going to get much for that. But I mean, would you use 2 trades to just with throw a position on the bench? And
2 weeks left, I'd almost take the risk and just go 2 trades and try and bring in, whether it is a Dawson who's got Collingwood and then North, or someone of that caliber. With 1 trade, if you've got a spare grand in the bank, you could get Colby McKercher for $505K. So that's not a bad option there.
Defence mid.
He's a bit cheaper. Another rogue one that I don't know if I love, but as a Hawks fan, I love him. And it's James Sicily, who's back. He's playing decent footy. He's scored since sort of the last five games. He's gone 114, 100, 130, 87, 97. And then he's playing Melbourne, who just bombed the ball into their forward line and have no real structure there. And then he's got Brisbane in the last game. And his form against Brisbane is not the best, but he earlier this year he scored 84 when he was injured, but before that he had 115 last year and then 136 the year before. So he's got a little bit of historic data to sort of say that it was a decent. He's scores decently against them, and then the round 11 game was against Brisbane this year was the second last game before he was ruled out for 6 weeks with injury. So definitely a wild card one. I know that he's a forward, defender only, so you need to swing some DPP stuff, but you'd be making about 10K in cash if you were to go Merritt to him, and he could finish the season with a couple of decent scores.
Yeah, and that's all we care about now. So those last couple of games, I mean, there's been someone's replied here and suggested Ed Richards, who's about 530 something K, I think. So if you have a little bit of money in the bank, he'd be a great pickup. And obviously they play the Eagles this week, so he could definitely score very well. And I've got another question from Jesus here. So would you go Merritt to Marshall? So he can obviously use some DPPs. And sort of the question I'm asking too is, does Dodson scare you off Marshall at all? I mean, Max Heath's been playing anyway the last few weeks, hasn't really affected him too much. They are playing Essendon. I think I still have to go there.
I don't think that would scare me to the point, because I feel like obviously we've talked a little bit about the fact that Marshall potentially is on the move at the end of the season, so they'd be wanting to play him in a prominent role and I guess do what Carlton isn't doing by playing De Koning as a full forward. So I think just to purely to pump up his stats, they'd be playing him as the number 1 ruck with barely little rest. But as I said before, Dodson is more of a ruck than a forward, and Heath is, while he's a ruck, he was also playing full forward, while Dodson and Boyd would take the ruck role at Sandringham. So it's a murky area where I think that Dodson would play majority forward with a couple of stints in the ruck, but he's not really a forward. He disappeared in games as a full forward, so it's an interesting one. Yeah,
murky's not really what you want when you're using your last trade.
No. Give it to Cherry. Cherry looks good.
Yeah, I mean that is another one. I mean, I thought he would score better last week. I think he got about 102 against Briggs, who's
First
not
game
the hardest
back though.
ruck opponent. He's got Richmond this week, who he scored 150 on earlier in the year. Feels like it's just been a long time. I guess he hasn't played for a few weeks. Feels like it's been a long time since he's been scoring like that. But he did have a run where he was really putting up those massive numbers. Can't remember who they play in the last round. Might be Adelaide or someone who's a bit
Adelaide,
tougher.
yeah, at Marvel.
Yeah, so he's definitely another option. I mean, as I was saying with Grundy, you got everybody to pick from in terms of money. I mean, English is another possibility. Playing West Coast is a pretty good matchup for him, but yeah, he scored 200 a couple of weeks ago, but then he scored 80 against Essendon. So
could also go. Jared Witts has got Kieran Briggs and then Jordan Sweet in the last 2 games, so that might be another one that's got a decent run, and he's only 518k. I can't imagine they're going to rest him with in the last game of the season. I mean,
but they've got that other game. So that's sort of.
Oh my god, they do too. They're playing.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe they're just resting for that.
Maybe. Maybe I don't like him as much now that he's actually got 3 games.
That's there's murkiness in that as well. So yeah, tricky. It's I thought Marshall. I was very happy with that, and then the Dodson news sort of throws a few question marks around it, which is a little bit annoying. But I think I'll probably have to go there. And so rolling into captains, I mean, Marshall was definitely high on my list for captains as well. We know what Rucks have done to poor old Toddy Goldstein in the last few weeks. I think Jesus is going for Wits, so he's happy with that. But again, the murkiness is that maybe I have bit each way and get Marshall in as a trade, but then don't make him captain, because you've got Nazai Wanganeen Miller in that game as well. He's just one of the hottest streaks you can imagine. So a couple of great options there. Gawn against Meek, I think, is a great pick. He scored about 140 something on him earlier in the year, and then you've got all the doggies against West Coast in the last game. So you can pretty much, as long as you're got a loophole somewhere. Good. Tommy Gross could be my loophole. Then you've got that all your Bulldogs as sort of backup captains, which Bont is the obvious one, averaging I think 5-round average of 149. But if you had to throw Hail Mary to win a prelim, you could try Ned Richards or a Libber or Sam Darcy, even someone like that. So plenty of options out there. Who do you like?
Yeah, Nazai is the obvious one for me on Friday night as a VC. Looking around the Freo Brisbane game, I don't love anyone in there enough to chuck it on over the Naz. In saying that, also like Jack Sinclair at St Kilda. So if you've got one of the two and don't have the other, I'd be leaning that way. Then going through the games, I really like Ed Richards against West Coast. Bont obviously works as well as a pretty powerful 1-2 there. I'd be also leaning Butters if he doesn't get the tag, but once again we talked about that's a bit dangerous. I wouldn't be going Noah Anderson or Matt Rao just because that tag seems more obvious there. I think Gawn against me is probably my safe bet for the captain.
I think that's a safe one.
Naz. Otherwise, you could go Luke Jackson against Brisbane. He'll be rucking against Darcy Fort solo as well. So that might be the other one as well.
Is Darcy out?
Is Darcy out? No, he's rucking against. Oh, sorry, no, he's not rucking. He's rucking with Sean Darcy, but against Darcy Fort solo.
Oh, so right.
With no Oscar McInerney. That's what I meant. Sorry. The issue is that's also on Friday night, so you can't really vice captain the two of them. But that's another option there that I don't mind.
I find him hard because I'm looking at all these matchup numbers, and Jackson. It's like, am I looking at a ruck matchup or a mid matchup or a forward matchup? It's hard to pin down.
I'm just going with the fact that it's a ruck matchup because it makes more sense that way. The fact that Brodie Grundy is missing against Geelong actually might make me cry tonight because that was the most obvious captaincy option there on Sunday.
Yeah. I
mean,
what about Baz or
should be still pretty good.
Baz and Holmes, you've sort of got James Jordan lurking around in that game, so that might sort of just scare you away from those guys. With a few others to choose from.
This week.
I mean, there's quite a few who could go really well, but you've got to sort of nailing it is the next thing. But hopefully people get it right. Hopefully we get it right, and we're in a few grand finals next week to talk about. It'd be nice to at least keep the season alive all the way through to the end. If you're in 9 prelims, surely you'll get through somewhere.
You'd reckon I'd get one. I'd be very flat if I didn't get one. And I lost in our draft, our office draft league, by like 20 points because Ned Long was a sub and I had him on the field and I didn't check my team before the bounce. And I was flat because I had someone on the bench who scored like 95 and it would have been the difference. I mean, in saying that, Ned Long came on the field in a minute.
Yeah, he did. That's true.
Of the Jeremy Howe injury. So like he had a full game just about, except that he only scored 30 points. So I can't really claim it too much. But if I'd seen that he was a sub pre-game, I would have taken him off the field. So in part I'm taking it. But
and that was that was prelim week, and I was knocked out too, but mine wasn't that close. So I made a few questionable calls, but none of them really would have made much difference. I lost by about 400 points, I think. So, but my first year in that league, I think I didn't do too bad. But yes, we'll reboot for next season. But one more week to go for everybody in SuperCoach Classic. Good luck with your prelims this week. Obviously, chasing overall rankings as well. If you have a trade, use it wisely. But hope everyone has a good weekend, and we'll catch you back here next week for the grand finals.